Hello folks, Stone Dog here. I'd like to just say a little bit about immigration and the border fence and terrorism. First off, I'm an advocate of closing off the borders because, well, for one thing, drug smugglers are coming across it all the time. We want to stop them, and so could terrorists potentially. I realize that the hijackers in 9/11 came on expired visas, and we'll get to that here in a minute, but it's pretty obvious that an open border makes it very easy for somebody to come across this border illegally who wishes to do us harm. Now, don't get me wrong, I have no problem with the people who want to come over here to find jobs, to make a better life for themselves, but I think they need to be doing it legally. And I think the real problem, and the reason so many of them do come over here illegally, is obviously because our immigration system is totally messed up. It doesn't work well. It takes God knows how long for you to get a green card, and then even if you do, you almost have to have some sort of high-level degree or something to really get a green card. You can't just be what would essentially be most of the illegals who come in here, which would be day laborers, come in here to learn skills and whatnot. And as far as integration goes, well, part of our country is the big melting pot, and I actually think to create this culture of illegals, the illegals aren't coming into this country and integrating because they can't, because they're illegal. And I will tell you this, I'm willing to go ahead and let bygones be bygones and allow them an amnesty program similar to the one George Bush wants and stated, if you can show that you have in fact secured the border. And now let me tell you a little bit about the border fence. This 700 miles of crap on the border does not work. For one thing, it's only 700 miles. It'd be too easy to go around. Two, if you've ever watched Penn and Teller, in fact, just this week they did an immigration episode, and they had built what is essentially a section of the same kind of fence that the border fence should be, and you come to see that they had some illegals on there, and it took them about 3 minutes to get past this. So it is not going to work to build a shitty little fence like that. You're going to have to build something like the Great Wall of China, even bigger than the Great Wall of China, and across both borders. And don't give me this, that's another proof that the politicians who did this border fence and who are talking all about illegal immigration and we gotta stop it and all this, they're doing it for political gain, because they hardly ever say anything about the Canadian border, just the Mexican border. And that also shows that, well, if terrorists can come over the Mexican border, they can sure as hell go over the Canadian border, and I think anyone with a brain can see that. And considering the fence seems to be about useless because it's just a fence, it would take a big wall to really significantly stop anybody. And let's face it, we just don't have that much money. My thoughts on how to secure the border properly on both borders, we need to do these things. First off, let us triple or quadruple the number of border agents, and do it quickly within the next year or two. This can easily be done if we're willing to look at the budget, see what we really don't need, and I guarantee you there is a lot in the federal budget we have no use for whatsoever. Anyone who thinks differently probably ain't paying attention to what's in there. There's way too much pork. All that pork that's always going into this stuff could easily go to do that. Two, we need electronic surveillance equipment, electronic fences, like trip fences, you know, so when somebody crosses the border, it alerts the border guard at a station. They can relay that information to the border guards, who can then go search for the people who crossed. Because, like I said, the fence is completely useless. For one thing, like I said, it's only 700 miles of a roughly 2,000 mile Mexican border, not to mention it does nothing for the Canadian border. And if you're really concerned about anything other than Mexican immigration, illegally or otherwise, you're going to be building it on both, and that's not the case. Anyway, let me go ahead and get to our immigration policy. It's totally messed up. We need to totally revamp that policy and how we handle it. Because, like I said, it could take years or more for you to get a green card, and even still, you don't know whether you will or not. And of course, people living in countries like Mexico who are extremely poor and are in desperate need of a better life, of course they're going to risk coming over here illegally. And of course, like I said, once they're over here because they have to hide, they sure aren't going to integrate into our society. So my thought is to fix this. First off, what we need is to go to the international community, go to all nations, and we need to hook up a pretty big, an extensive database to make it very easy to verify a person's identity. And basically all I want to see is that if you want to come over here and work, that's fine. Prove who you are and show that you're either not on a terrorist watch list, which of course most people aren't, and two, that you don't have an extensive criminal background, because let's face it, if you have 20 felonies, what are you probably going to do when you get here? You're probably going to commit more felonies. And I think anybody in their right mind can understand not letting multiple felons in. And so what you do then is, like I said, once you verify that they're who they say they are and they aren't on a terrorist watch list or have an extensive criminal background, I think it should be pretty much automatic that they get their green card, because essentially you would have to let a huge portion of the entire world's population into this country before it would really be what I would consider a detriment to the economy. Because look at our economy now, even with all the illegal immigrants here taking jobs from other people, our unemployment rate's what, 5%? This is one of the lowest of any country out there. And we all have this flux of illegals, so even if they were legal, it wouldn't do any better. In fact, it might stimulate the economy more, because they'd actually be getting paid decently, and they might actually buy American products instead of sending every last penny back home to their families. And I think basically once you have a green card, all you should be able to do to renew it isn't having to go back to your country of origin, but basically prove that you have had the same job for roughly 6 months. And basically it's automatically renewed after that. And I think doing these things, we can not only secure our borders from the drug smugglers and the terrorists, but allow pretty much anybody in any country to easily come to this country to make a better life for themselves, which is one of the things our country is supposed to be about. You know what the Statue of Liberty says, and I understand we live in a different time now. We can't just let anyone in without any kind of documentation. We got to have some documentation. And we also have to secure our borders, because the threats outside of those borders invading us are, well, we'll get to a video straight up on terrorism later. But basically those are the things I think we should do to fix our immigration policy, secure our borders, and then we can go ahead and give amnesty to these illegals. Because let's face it, 90% of the illegals that are in this country now just want a better life for themselves, and I congratulate them for wanting that. It's part of the American dream, and we should not tell them no. But we have to assure that there's no more illegal immigration in this country before we can do that, because otherwise we'll just have another problem, just like the amnesty the last time. What happened then? Well, of course we know what happened then. It didn't work. Well, back when Reagan did it, what happened since then? More illegals have come over. Why? Because they never secured the border. I want to know what all y'all think about this. What y'all think maybe should be done. Things like that. What y'all think about the chances of terrorists crossing the border, and what you think about drug smugglers and whatnot crossing the border, and what we should do about that. Whether you think the fence is a good idea, you know. I want to hear all y'all's opinions. This has been Stone Dog here, and I would like to hear every last opinion that reads this. That would be appreciated.